Coming to you from the middle of nowhere, that's right, we're back home and very happy to be, it's Talk for Two. Well, hello, all you listeners out there. Matt Bailey here. Before we begin, a quick shout out to Pete Michaels Jr. for our new theme. I hope you enjoyed it, as well as our two-day return from Nashville that aired last week with David Turner and Steve Hall. If you have yet to check it out, I encourage you to do so. But it is a thrill to be back to our regularly scheduled weekly series, now called Talk for Two. I promise you, it is the same great show it has always been. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to give a big thank you to our season sponsors, the Tangent Bound Network. Now, they are our new servers. We're also on tangentboundnetwork.com. And I want to thank our season entertainment sponsor, Axtel Expressions, one of the most well-known entertainment companies in the world. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Steve, for being our season sponsor. Now, I got to tell you, I am so excited about our name change. Talk for Two, once again, is the same show that it has always been, and it is the perfect blend between our ventriloquism focus and the fact that more and more entertainers for whom the word ventriloquism makes absolutely no sense are coming on the show. They're appearing more and more, and I think our name finally reflects what we've always known. On this show, there's room for everyone. If you have something to say about show business, I want to hear it. And our new platforms are bigger and better than ever. I mentioned the Tangent Bound Network. If you go and subscribe in iTunes to Talk for Two, I need you to do that because the Ventriloquism Weekly feed does not exist anymore. So if you were subscribed and were letting everything automatically download and disappeared, that's why. I need you to go to Talk for Two, find us in iTunes, and subscribe. And our new website, talk4two.com. Website's just a little different than our show name. But I mentioned Tangent Bound Network as our servers. That means that I never have to delete another episode again. In fact, episodes that were deleted more than a year ago are back. Now, on the website, we have some awesome, one-of-a-kind products for you, including, we link through to Axtel and our sit stand, and a brand new DVD from Pete Michaels that you can buy on the site about working comedy clubs. That's available for pre-sale, and we'll have more on that after today's interview. And today's guest also has a product of his very own on talk42.com to tell you about. And actually, after we did the interview is when I asked him if I could put it on my site as well. So don't think this is some sort of weird commercial, because this is just informative. It's very important that we talk about this book because it's really, really cool. Returning for his second appearance, Neale Bacon of British Columbia joins me to talk about his new book, KinderVoices, Ventriloquism for Daycares and Pre-Schools. It is 55 pages of invaluable info if you want to work in this often underserved market. Now, as the name suggests, it is about working these venues as a ventriloquist. It is a specialized book about doing venues as a ventriloquist, and that's just rare. We don't see that very often, and that's what makes it very special to me and very exciting for me to get to talk to Neale today. And there are many great things about this book, and I'm excited for you to listen to it. It will be of great service to you if you entertain toddlers. Here now to tell you more about his book, our interview with Neale Bacon. Neale Bacon, welcome to Talk for Two. How are you today, sir?
Not too bad.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I got your book, I read it, and I said, we got to have you on here to talk about KinderVoices. How'd you get the idea to do KinderVoices?
Well, it came from a couple of sources. One, there's a terrific book written by a guy named Tom Boulware called The Daycare Magician. Mm-hmm. But Tom's regular background is he's been a daycare director for many years. And I read through his book and went, yeah, there's a definite difference in doing daycares and preschools. And when I've been to the convention or talked to other ventriloquists online, a lot of them said, oh, you can't do kids that young. We're talking 3, 4, and 5 mostly. Mm-hmm. They said, you can't do them that young. They can't pay attention. They can't sit, whatever. And I just said, no, you can do it. There's just differences, and there's a way you go about doing it. So I did that to help people and to prove to people that, yeah, indeed, you can do that.
Yeah. Now, the flip side of that question is, why give it away that you can?
Well, because I'm the only ventriloquist in my whole area, mm-hmm. As far as working in the daycares, and if this can help improve the art and spread it around and give us a bigger audience, who knows if one of those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds you're entertaining today could be hooked on puppets and, become an up-and-comer. I mean, it's where most of us saw our first magician or first ventriloquist is when we're in that age. I don't mind sharing the expertise. I don't mind, sharing what I've learned, because this is what it's all about. We should be sharing what we've learned and passing the torch,
Now, in the book, you mentioned that some people don't do it, not necessarily because they don't think that they can't perform for that age group, but that they don't do it because there's not a lot of money in it. And you talk about doing a couple a day. How many shows do you do a day when you do a daycare or a preschool? How many places do you get to hit in a day?
Actually, often I will, particularly in daycare setups, I often get to do the same one twice in the same day, because they will often have, for example, a younger class in the morning and an older class in the evening or afternoon. They might have like 3-4-year-olds in the morning, but then a lot of daycares also do after-school care. Mm-hmm. So they could have kids up into first and second grade. And so it becomes a whole other show. So a lot of the daycares that I do, I actually do two in a day in the same location. Those are wonderful, because you go in, you do your show, you go for lunch, you come back, do another show.
Yeah, and what do you think, other than the money and just not being sure of the market, what do you think is the most intimidating factor for people that they don't jump in and do daycares?
I think it's a preconceived idea. As I've said, the little ones won't sit for it. Mark Wade has said in his book on kids ventriloquism, give up the idea of trying to do a full routine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That age kids, they don't get verbal humor. Mm-hmm. They want funny and silly and goofy, and I think a lot of performers just aren't comfortable with kids that young, and so they just say no. I'd rather not. It's the same reason as I hear from a lot of magicians or even some ventriloquists that they wouldn't go near a birthday party show, for love nor money, because that's just not their market.
Right. It's interesting. Do you think some of it is also, let's say you put together a very physical routine and not being sure of what the teachers at the daycare or the teachers at the preschool are expecting of an entertainer to come in, and let's say you put together a physical routine and you hope that, and it doesn't have a lot of jokes in it, you hope to be appealing to the kids, but you kind of have to ignore the adults, but you hope that the adults see that you're entertaining the kids. I think that's, to me, one of the most intimidating things is reaching them. If I'm making any sense, this is something that popped into my head, is making sure the adults are aware that you know what you're doing for the age group, and it's just not, here, I'm going to do this balloon bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. First of all, never ignore the adults.
Right.
Even in a daycare setting, you throw one or two jokes that they will get that the kids won't. Yeah. And that's, it just lets them know I'm here to entertain everybody. I think a lot of that gets taken care of once the person has, when you've sent your material, whatever, and they've made that phone call saying, we'd like you to come, that's when you ask your questions. Do you guys actually work with a curriculum? You'll find out, are you coming in for a specific theme? Like I do a Halloween safety show. I do a Christmas show. Mm-hmm. I do a kickoff to summer show. So I discuss it with them, and it fits what they're trying to do. And particularly preschool, which is literally that. It's preschool. So they're starting the learning process. Mm-hmm. And so some of my shows, I've come in and done storytelling using the puppets. And then you do the same, the routine where you're trying to tell the story and the puppet's messing up, and the kids will know the story. That's the big secret. Tell a story the kids will know, because then they will correct the puppet, or they will laugh when they realize the puppet's messing you up. For example, one of our favorite ones, we say we're going to tell the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and Clarice, the Wonder Chicken, she insists that it's Goldilocks and the Three Chickens.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to tell the story, and she keeps changing it to chickens. She says because it was originally chickens, but somebody changed it because nobody's really scared of chickens.
Yeah. And to that end, do you think we underestimate that age group's ability to comprehend?
Yes, very much. This might be before your time. You've heard of Captain Kangaroo?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, Captain Kangaroo was played by a guy named Bob Keeshan, and Bob Keeshan went and spoke at a lot of universities on childhood development and whatnot. And I always keep in mind a quote that Bob Keeshan said is that children are not less intelligent, they are less experienced. Children are not stupid, and especially these days, kids at 3, 4, and 5 are exposed to so much more. Right? I mean, if you ever have a problem with your iPhone, you can't figure out how it works, hand it to a 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're much more aware, and some of them are very sharp. They're still that child thing. I mean, I still say kids are kids. People say, oh, kids are different now. No, they're not. They're more aware, but kids are kids, and they still laugh at the same things. In some ways, it makes the show easier because they are a little bit more aware. They're a little more hip, so you don't have to rely strictly on physical. But you can tell a story and they'll know it, that sort of thing,
And you mentioned in the book a little bit, you mentioned attention span, but I'm curious what the change has been since all of this technology has come in and the 5-year-old knows how to work the iPhone versus maybe 10, 15 years ago doing the same market. Were you able to get away with something maybe a minute or two longer?
Well, and people blame Sesame Street for a kid's short attention span. Okay, remember that Sesame Street came on in 1969.
Yeah.
So we're talking almost 40 years or 50 years that we've been saying kids are getting shorter and shorter attention span. We're in that very high tech and people get things in short snippets and short bites. But no, I think if you engage the kids, they'll stay with you. Now, that being said, like I say in the book that I don't recommend if you're going to do a 30 or 40-minute show to do it with one puppet because you'll lose them. They'll want some variety. I'm a bit of a ventriloquism purist, but I also do magic. I did magic before Vent, and I still do 1 or 2 magic bits just to vary it up.
And it's important to be able to interchange. You talk about doing the show in modules.
Right. In that if you're telling a story or doing something and you realize that it is going longer, because sometimes you plan out a show, but then if the kids are just laughing themselves silly, your show starts going longer than you had anticipated, and you need to be able to pull out a module. You can pull out a bit. You can pull out a trick that won't make one difference one way or another to your show. It's not like a house of cards where you pull out one bit and it should be nothing that the rest of the show depends on.
Right. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about booking these shows. Right. What do you think? You go over a lot in the book, but I want the one single most important thing that you can do to book a daycare or a preschool.
Don't phone them. As I say in the book, you phone a daycare. Well, daycares have got 20, 30, however many 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. It's kind of like herding cats. The last thing they want to do is talk to you on the phone. That's why I went into detail about what my most effective thing has been. The greatest return on investment has been using postcards. Because and again, thank you, Mark Wade. I kind of got the idea from some of the cards I've seen that Mark has sent out. All you want to do is hook their attention enough to make them call you. So I give them, and if by having seasonal or themed shows, it also gives you the reason to contact them more often.
Yeah.
If it's the same show, you can mail them once and then you're kind of done. I can send them one, here's my Halloween show coming up, or my reading show, my storytelling show, whatnot. And it's enough for them to look at it, and it's got the little synopsis that tells them what the kids are going to see, what they might learn. And if I have the room, I can throw in a review or whatnot. But it's got to be bright, colorful, and to the point. Yeah. And that's enough. It's they're in marketing terms, it's called a lead generator. You cannot sell your show in a postcard or a brochure or any of that sort of stuff. All you want to do is hook them enough to make the phone call. Then you sell them.
Right. Now, when you do the postcards, you talk about also doing the postcards and having the image and it going in an email.
Right.
Do you get more responses now from emails or more responses from the ones where they have them in hand?
I actually get a better, there's a couple of reasons behind it, but I get a better ROI on the electronic ones, simply because I'm not paying postage. So if I can send them out electronically, if they don't respond or don't answer me, no harm, no foul. But I finding that they open it, it has the same effect as a postcard. They get my entire message in 5 seconds. They read it, there it is. Is it enough to call me back? Or it's easy enough to just click reply and they go, yeah, are you available such and such a date, or what do you charge? Now, I do explain in the book, it is written from a Canadian perspective, and we just got in this thing called CASL, Canadian Anti-Spam Legislation. And it's a bit of an iron fist in because they're really going after people who spam. So there's a whole thing about having consent, and then there's a difference between direct consent, which is like if somebody opts in for your mailing list, or implied consent. Implied consent, for example, means if they have a website, the implied consent is they'd like you to contact them.
Yeah.
But that only works for a certain length of time. And I don't want to get into great detail because it won't affect anybody listening anywhere but Canada. But it can affect when you can mail, how many you can mail. Sometimes you have to watch how many you send at a time.
Yeah.
But if it's a person you've done business with in the past, then there's absolutely no problem. You have implied consent until they tell you otherwise. And you have to have in your email an opt-out, which is simply, if you don't want to hear from me anymore, just say unsubscribe, I'll take you off my list. I mean, as long as that's there, I'm covered.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Now, the other thing is, we talked about putting the show together, we talked about booking the show, and I want to go back to the factors that intimidate a lot of people, which is just that age group and sort of the sort of rogue kids that'll come up, touch your props, touch your puppets. And you say something in the book that I never even really thought of, and it actually has made me start to consider doing daycares, which is just look to the teachers. Just try to sit them back down and just look to the teachers to help you, because they know that student. They're with them day in and day out. And what I want to ask you about is, where is that line between you saying something to the kid and then looking to the teachers?
In most daycare preschool settings, the teachers are your best friend. The teachers are there. It's not like one of my biggest problems I have in birthday parties is like they just turn you loose on a room full of kids and the parents all go outside and have a beer.
Yeah.
In the daycare, they stay there. Part of it is the whole concern of somebody coming into the classroom, but for whatever reason, they're there and they know the kids. I pay very close attention when they're seating them, because you'll see the teachers talk among themselves. Don't put Bobby next to Johnny or whatever, because then those two are like gas in a match. You don't.
Yeah.
And you see who gets separated from who, or this kid better come sit by me, meaning the teacher.
Yeah.
So you go, okay, that's a kid they're going to keep on a short leash, so I won't pick him if I need help. I generally don't find kids getting up and coming up during the show. I get the opposite sometimes, is that if I'll ask for a helper, they want to come up and help, and then once they're on stage, they get the deer in the headlights look, and then I have to gently just say, well, thanks anyway, let's everybody give them a hand, and I'll help them to go back to their seat. And they go, who'd like to come up and help me finish this story?
Yeah.
Once somebody... The other kids will see what's going on and they'll come up. But the teachers are your best friends.
Yes. Now, in your experience doing them, we talked about the things that intimidate people from doing them. But once you are doing them, what is the hardest thing about doing the preschool age?
I think you as I say, don't plan on sticking hard and fast. If you have a completely memorized show, it'll derail every time. You got to learn to be flexible. You got to learn to roll with the punches, but you can't go too far down the rabbit hole, or you may not get your show back. What happens is one kid will. I think Mark Wade describes it best as they just want to spend half an hour going, "Hi, puppet," and once that starts, it becomes a wave. They'll all want to do it.
Yeah.
And so what I generally say is, well, you know what? We're all, going to sit down. We're going to listen to the story, and we probably have time to talk to the puppet later. So it's just learning to kind of pull it back in again, but be flexible enough to go with it, because sometimes the funniest routines or bits or whatever come out of kids.
Yeah.
I remember when we've done the whole mess up a story thing. We had one little girl in one daycare I did. She's going to be a teacher, I think, when she grows up. But she was very upset that Clarice kept messing up the story. She was very adamant. That is not how it goes. And this is like a 4-year-old.
That's great.
And, oh, yeah, they're really good, but you've just got to learn to roll with it. I don't find them intimidating. sometimes one example I gave in the book is that I've started going more casual for my show. I used to do the whole suit and tie bit, and I'm not as big as I used to be, but I'm still a big guy with the bald head and whatnot. I'm a little intimidating when I have the whole suit and tie bit. So I took another page from the Mark Wade book. I do the golf shirt and more like khakis and that sort of stuff, and that helps. Mm-hmm. But I did a show wearing a T-shirt, and I had this really cool Spider-Man shirt that I got, and it was beautiful. It's all satin, all done up. Well, we got ready to do our show, and this one little boy just started, as soon as he saw me, he started crying, and he wouldn't stop, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And I asked one of the teachers, is there an issue? And she said, yeah, he's terrified of Spider-Man. Oh. And I went, oh, really? And I never thought about that, so I just took the Spider-Man shirt off and just did it in the T-shirt and the khakis. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm thinking, well, young kids like comic books. They love Spider-Man. Well, no, not when they're 4.
Yeah.
He's a little more intimidating.
It's the whole thing with that snake, I
exactly
it to the Mark Wade and the snake story that you tell.
Yeah.
Jagged lines.
Right.
Jagged edges.
Right. And the fact that, the Spider-Man shirt, it's in red and black. They're not cheerful colors. They're darker toned.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like when Mark said, when he changed his snake from pointed teeth to having just sort of regular cartoony teeth, no problem. And I think if I had had a different style of shirt where Spider-Man was more cartoonish than more graphic novel-ish, it wouldn't have been an issue. I've gone in wearing the same sort of a deal with a T-shirt and Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
Not a problem, right? Or bowling shirts, not a problem. But Spider-Man, not so much.
Not so much. Now, something that you say, because you were talking about people not knowing that they can do the market or not wanting to do the market. Do you think there's a general trend away from entertainers wanting to do kid shows as a whole?
I think that's gone on for years. I used to see it really more in the magic community, which I always found ironic, as I say, because that's where most of us are our first magician or ventriloquist. But it's almost like when you start doing kid shows, then when you get really good, you move on to something else. And I'm like, why? You can still be really good, just be really good at doing kids. Yeah. But a lot of guys think they want to move on. It's partly a money thing. For some guys, it's the exposure and the ego. I'm a big fish in a small pond. I love walking down the street and having kids from daycare age or school age recognize me. That's fun. I don't want to be like I talked to Jeff Dunham about this one time. I said, I don't want to be you. I don't want to tour the world. That's not my corner of the market. And he said, no, that was what he set out to do. But he says, if I'm happy doing what I'm doing, then continue to do that. Yeah. And I want to be that guy that these kids look back and go, at whatever age. When I was in kindergarten or whatever, there was this really funny guy came in with his puppets and had this pig that talked. And if I can create those kind of memories like my mentor did for me, I'm happy with that.
You want to continue Peter's legacy. Those that heard Neale's first interview know what we're talking about. And and I think you and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. I think what you have done with this book, and I want to brag on it a little bit because I read it and it really is great. It's 55 pages, but all of it is information that if you're interested in this market, or even if you have never thought about being interested in this market, but you want to do some reading about it, that you're going to use and you're going to enjoy. That for us, and you hit the nail on the head, you go from the magic community to the vent community. Well, there's stuff out there about that for the magicians, doing kids show magic shows, doing corporate magic shows, but not a lot of stuff specialized and focused on being a ventriloquist and working a specific market. And that is why I am thankful and grateful that you have written this book, because now I'm even considering it. And I never really think of myself as a children's entertainer, but I'm thinking maybe this isn't as intimidating as it is perceived to be.
Well, this is it. I mean, I've seen ventriloquism books about working cruise ships, about working banquets, And even Mark's book is about kids in general.
Yeah.
Mine is specifically that daycare preschool, which Mark touches on, but that's where I focused on.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. But it is a market we've never really talked about. It may have come up at one point or another, but I don't recall it ever being a workshop, for example, at the convention. Have they ever done a specific one on daycares?
Yeah.
You know, we don't talk about it because a lot of us think it's a market we can't do. It's the same thing as people that used to say you can't do walk around ventriloquism because you have to have a certain distance between you and your audience for the illusion to work.
Yeah.
I just think people aren't stupid. They know where the voice is coming from.
Yeah.
And when I do walk around at fairs, different subjects lately, but I mean, they don't even talk to me. They just want to talk to, Clarice or Horton or whoever. And it's the same thing in a daycare because you're up close and personal, right? The kids are at your feet. There's no big distance. There's no stage. You're in the classroom and you just set up right there.
That age, you don't want to be on a stage.
No, you don't. It's too much of a distance.
Yeah. And the thing with walk around is it's kind of an inaccuracy to say suspension of disbelief, but suspension of belief. I know the puppet is not, it's you, but I'm going to talk to the puppet because you're walking around, we're having fun, it's a fun day, who cares?
Yep. Exactly. And if I come up with it's a family group, I start talking to the kids first. Then, of course, mom and dad are going to join in. They're not going to say to the kid, well, that's not real,
Yeah.
Unless, I should preface that by saying, unless the kid is nervous around puppets. Because I have had that in walk-around situations where the kids are a little freaked out, like their stuffed animals don't talk.
Yeah.
Why do mine? And then the parents will just say, well, it's just a puppet. We're just pretending. And then we're good to go. And it's the same thing in the daycare setting. I have had one or two that are a little freaked out that I have a chicken that talks or a pig that talks. And then I just say, well, or somebody else will say, it's a puppet. And usually I will have Horton or Clarice answer, yes, I know. And then we carry on from there,
I love it. And is that important to not go, oh, no, it's not a puppet. Is it important to go with how they're thinking of it? Because you'll hear other people that'll think, oh, they're just real and then they discover that it's just an illusion and then they're crushed.
I find I will get kids, particularly in an after-school care setting where now you're getting into grade school age, and they want to show off what they know. And so they'll be going, it's a puppet, it's a puppet, it's a puppet, to the point you finally go, yes, it's a puppet. And then they got no more argument after that.
Yeah.
It's not like we're a magician when the kid will go, I know how you did that, and everything you do. Oh, I've seen this one. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that. Like, I used to love it. I'd bring out a deck of cards. I know that trick. Oh, well,
We've all been
really,
there.
it's the only one trick you can do with a deck of cards. So when a kid will say, well, it's just a puppet, it's usually because they're trying to show to the little kids, I'm smarter than you. I know it's just a puppet. And when the puppet goes, that's how it works, they got no argument after that. And funny thing is 5 minutes later, that kid will be interacting with that puppet like it's real.
Yeah.
He made his point. He was heard. He was acknowledged by the puppet. And then after that, we're good to go.
Yeah,
so I don't find that that's an issue. It doesn't throw my show off as much as I know how you did that, because that used to happen after every trick.
Yeah.
I always say the worst audience in the world for magician is a 9-year-old with a magic set. Because they know the secrets, they just don't know to shut up about it.
Yeah.
And once you've said, yes, it's a puppet, okay, what else are they going to say?
Then it's done. It's done.
Yeah, and if they don't bring it up, like in a daycare, they generally won't. They won't say, well, it's just a puppet. The question I get is it real? Is that real? Is that a real chicken? And I will honestly tell, I won't lie to the kids. That's my big thing. So I'll say, well, it's a chicken puppet, but she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who I stole that from, but I'd seen another ventriloquist do that and said, yeah, he's a puppet, but he doesn't know, so we don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's great.
And it works.
Yeah, that's great. So what is the one big takeaway that you want people who are going to buy your book and read it? What is the one takeaway you want people to walk away from reading your book with?
That you can do daycares and preschools and actually have fun doing them. Mm-hmm. It's a market you can do. They're not too young. They're not too small to sit and enjoy your show. You can do it, but it does take some special handling.
And they deserve quality entertainment just like everybody else.
Yeah. As I say, the Bob Keeshan quote, right? They're not less intelligent. This is definitely before your time, but have you ever heard of a Romper Room?
I've heard of it. I'm not necessarily
Okay, it was
sure
a kids show in the 60s.
Yeah.
And the lady always sounded like she was on Valium. It was, hello, boys and girls, we're going to have such fun today. And I just hate those kind of kid shows. You do not talk down to the kids, right? You talk to them, not down to them, and that's a big thing, is treat them like intelligent little people, because they are.
They are. Well, Neale Bacon, thank you so much. I am so excited to see what comes of KinderVoices. I'm really, really, really excited. Great title, too. I love it. And
Thank you.
We got to clear that up. It's not KinderVoices, as some people I saw you posting on Facebook. It is KinderVoices. And
It was a bit of a play
incredible.
on kindergarten,
Yes.
Now, we should tell people where they can get the book.
Yes, please. I'll let you.
Okay, they can get it. It is on Kindle, Amazon. The cost, it's $20, and I'm sorry, Canadians, it would only let me list it for $20 US. So I don't know what Canadians pay, because our dollar is just so sad right now. Anyway, if the people want, they can order it directly from me. A couple of people have said to me, well, I don't have a Kindle. Can you send it to me? Yes, I can. They can get it through PayPal, and it's still $20, and I will email them a PDF of the book. And to reach me via PayPal, my PayPal email is Bacon and Friends. It's written out. That's not the little ampersand. That's the official word for that squiggly thing, is an ampersand. Yes. Bacon and Friends at shaw.ca. That's important too, .ca, not .com.
Yes. All right, Neale Bacon, I wish you nothing but the best with this book. I'm really excited.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on to talk about it.
Oh, glad to do it.
My thanks again to Neale. Always a pleasure, and I wish KinderVoices nothing but the success it deserves. In fact, as I mentioned at the top of the show, KinderVoices is available as a download, and that's the only way it's available, by the way, but it is available on talkfor2.com as well as from Neale. So head over to our website and check it out. Little blurb about it. Now, along with our new name, I am super excited about our brand new site, talkfor2.com. We were talking about this before. That's talk number 4, and then you spell out 2.com. Specifically, our new DVD with Pete Michaels entitled Ventriloquism for Comedy Clubs. It's on pre-release, and it's really something I'm thrilled about. You won't find it anywhere but talkfor2.com or petemichaels.com. We're both going to have it. You'll learn the real work on performing in comedy clubs, from booking the show to the type of material you should prepare and setting up your show once you're inside. It's all there, so head over to talkfor2.com and check it out, pre-order it today. Now, Pete will have the DVDs from the pre-order at Vent Haven. We're doing the pre-order sale, and the sale price at Vent Haven is $30, and then after that it's going to shoot up to $35 to take care of shipping and handling. So Pete will have them at the booth at his Vent Haven. You give me your name when you place the order and let me know if you're coming to Vent Haven. For those of you not coming to Vent Haven, or if you forget, we're going to waive the shipping during the at $35 price. That just takes care of shipping for us. We're going to waive that in the convention grace period here, and if you don't get it at convention, I will ship your copy the week after the convention. Now, if you're international, one of the things I've come to really be proud of with this podcast is our international reach, those of you that don't have a lot of access to Vent resources. So anything you order from us internationally will be available as a digital download, but that's international orders only. In the lower 48, we will have the hard copies to ship to you. We've got everybody covered. Now, speaking of Vent Haven, the executive director himself, Mark Wade, will be with us next week to tell us what to expect from the largest gathering of ventriloquists anywhere in the world. Once again, a thank you to our season sponsors, the Tangent Bound Network. They are our new servers, and that means we never have to delete another episode again, and the entire back catalog is back. And to our season entertainment sponsor, Axtel Expressions. I think there isn't a soul on the planet who does what we do, who doesn't know what Steve Axtell does, the kinds of characters that he creates. But if you don't, they are some of the coolest characters available. Head over to axtell.com and check it out, as well as my product that he's selling, the Sit Stand. Did that with Jeffrey Goltz, Steve Petra, Chris Weed, and, of course, Steve Axtell. Lots of collaboration, and I'm really, really excited about how it's come out over this summer break while we've been not doing episodes. I've had some shows, and I've been using it to a great response, and it really helps with my shows in ways that I think you'll only understand once you have it in your hands. It's fantastic. You can find all you need to know about Talk for Two by going to our website, talk4spellout2.com. Reach out by emailing talkfor2cast@gmail.com, or we have a contact form on the website. And find our group on Facebook or like us on Facebook by searching for Talk for Two, and therein spell out the word FOR. Tweet us and about us using @ and hashtag Talk for Two. Ooh, this part is so much more fun and makes so much more sense. Signing off for Talk for Two, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two.